Hey, what's up guys? Nick here. Today I wanted to kind of let you guys get a little bit more saturated in a mindset that I've been going into for the last couple of summers. And there's some things I started doing and a way I would think to try to get a better than average bite. And so today I'm going to be talking about what is reaction. You know, you have reaction baits like lipless crankbaits, square bills, crankbaits, chatterbaits. Essentially, a moving bait is a reaction bait, and instinctually you're trying to get them to react to something vibrating or something spinning, something that looks wounded. But there's a lot more forms of getting a bass to physically react that's out there. There's instinctually reacting, okay? That's where they think something's wounded and instinct tells them to go and attack it. Then there's the physical reaction of something going in their face and them swatting it, or something invading their personal space and them swatting it like that, or there's something sitting there in their space that they're uncomfortable with, so they will pick it up or move it. Instinctually, sometimes they'll eat that. So that is all forms of reaction. So getting a fish essentially to react to any bait, you can do. It doesn't necessarily have to land in the quote-unquote reaction bait category. So one of the first things I'm going to go over, and this will kind of help you get a better sense of what I'm talking about. This is a 1/2 ounce tungsten weight with a bobber stop and a 3/0 light wire flipping hook. And this is just a 7-inch margarita mutilator MM3 robo worm. This is something I've been smashing them on out in the Delta, and you're probably thinking like, that's a weird thing. You're kind of punching a worm. And this is a technique I essentially call threading a worm, all right? Some people call it speed worming, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. That's cool with me. Someone's probably been doing this 50 years before me, and I just didn't know. So essentially what this is going to do is it's basically going to get down into the grass anywhere. It's going to go through matted vegetation on the surface. I use this in ponds a ton and any shallow water fishery that's going to have a lot of matted vegetation. Now, why wouldn't I use like a 3/16? Simple. I would if I thought the bass were eating. When I have this mindset of getting bass to react, and I want you to really think about this. Let's pause this for a minute and let's think. Let's take human beings, for example. We eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a snack here or there. Let's say it takes us 30 minutes to eat that span. We're now looking at an hour and a half total, times 3, 30 times 3. Now, the rest of that 24 hours, more than likely, we are not eating, all right? We may instinctually react if our buddy tosses us a cheeseburger or a chicken nugget or a french fry and eat it. Instinctually, yes, and some of these baits are moving by. Instinctually, the bass is going to run after them and grab them. But an actual reaction of it coming into the space and them hitting it is different than an instinctual reaction. It's more like a reflex reaction. So if I was moving this very slow and it landed in their space, they may think, oh, it's a worm, I'm going to eat it if they're hungry, okay? Or if it's moving by real fast, or I pop it through the grass and it comes by them, they might instinctually react. When this is dropping down super fast on them, I'm asking them to physically react, turn and smack it, which is entirely different because it's instantly coming in there. They have really no idea what it is. It's just like punching a creature bait through matted vegetation. It's coming through super fast. Some people think, oh no, their fish are hungry, they want a crawdad, that's what they're doing under there. Sure, a small percentage of the time, but most of the time you're getting them to physically react, not instinctually react. Instinctual reaction is thinking something's wounded and going after it. Physically reacting is turning and swatting. And I'm gonna give you more of a thought process to where this has happened to you.
Hang with us, guys. We'll be right back. Wondering what I'm doing here? That's simple. I'm logging a fish catch into the Fat Sack Outdoors online tournament fishing app, where anyone can win an assortment of prizes from gift cards to hundreds of dollars worth of fishing lures. It doesn't matter if you're a boater or a bank banger, so hurry up and download the app to get started today. you ever heard of Cal Coast Fishing's Rod Mule for super convenient rod transfer or storage? And how about the Bait Sack, a puncture-proof, clip-on bait protector that comes in an assortment of sizes? Or maybe you're looking for the best non-puncture culling system with Cal Coast Fishing Clip and Call. And it wouldn't be complete without a money beam. I trust it when money's on the line. And let's not forget the Cali Clip, a super convenient dual-purpose bait clip. Want to find out more? Visit calcoastfishing.com.
No, it's been good back here, man. I was getting a bunch of frog bites, but lately we've been really having to throw the kitchen. Got him, missed it. Oh, he's hot. He's hot, right there.
Did I get him?
Wait for it, wait for it. Ah, close.
Let me go get the other thing.
Almost had it.
Hey guys, did you know that Yours Truly is now hosting Lucky Tackle Box's monthly panfish instructionals? And aside from relentless fish catching, I'll be breaking down the rigging and the gear you need to get going along the way. And of course, a few extra tips to help you score more fish on the goodies included in your box. So remember, the tug is our drug, so go visit LuckyTackleBox.com and get signed up today. Attention Northern California anglers, have you been to Boat Country in Escalon with one of the largest selections of welded aluminum fishing boats from North River, Hughes Craft, and now Crestliner? Chances are they have the right boat for you. And did I mention they have a full service center to take care of all your repair or boating maintenance needs? If you're a boat owner or just looking to become one, you owe it to yourself to check these guys out. Visit BoatCountryUSA.com or stop on by. We'll see you there. Hey guys, Nick the Informative Fisherman here, and when it comes to my hooks, I demand superior craftsmanship, innovative design, and proven success. And that's why I've chose to partner with Mustad Fishing Hooks. With over 180 years in the business, you can't go wrong. So if you don't want to risk losing a big one, I suggest you do the right thing.
Early in the spring, you see square bills, a big player. Ultraviolet's low, the fish are up shallow, it's pre-spawn, they're looking around, they're eating crawdads, okay? And you're bouncing a square bill off the rocks. Bang, 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 bang. You're bouncing it off, and you hook big fish. But when summertime rolls around, that square bill doesn't play nearly the effect, unless it's low light hours where those fish can be up shallow. And what happens? Well, simple. We start doing things like frogging, or throwing a worm into the grass, or punching matted vegetation, or deep cranking. You know, we might throw a deep diving crankbait down around some rocks. The fish are changing location. And so getting a big fish to react to something like a square bill, it's coming through there, it's deflecting, they hear it, okay? So let's say you have one like this rattle trap with tons of noise. That could work really well if that water's dirty, all right? And they hear it coming, then they're gonna instinctually react. But trying to score a physical reaction out of them, turning and hitting something for it instantly invading their space, a silent version of that can be better. If you're not getting bit on the audible, this is that same process. You know those fish are there. Now you're going to try to get them to physically react instead of instinctually react. So keep the same thing in mind. If this square bill, now it's not getting into the space, they pull out deeper when it gets hotter in the summertime. We know this. This is a lot of the time where we're going to fish to turn to like a chatterbait. Now in the spring, I'm going to fish a lighter version when those fish are shallow and bring it up faster next to them and try to get it in there, get it in the grass and pop it out. But in the summertime, I'm going to fish a heavier version, whether I'm really going deeper or not. And the reason why the fish are moving into that heavier cover, so when I'm ripping it through there and going faster, I'm staying right next to them. So I have the opportunity of a reaction, them instinctually wanting to get this, or it popping in and just getting a physical reaction, turning and grabbing it like such. So the same thing is when I'm threading, I'm popping this and getting it to drop into holes, okay? Now, I want you to think about this. Let's say I casted this rattle trap and my target was 20 feet in between me and the shoreline. I cast this up to the shoreline. Let me turn it the proper way so it's swimming to me. It's coming, the fish hears it the whole time. He chooses not to instinctually react. Now let's say I knew that tree was right there. Now if I pitched up to that tree and he was right under it and it hit the water and instantly went like that by his face, I can score a physical reaction out of that fish. He's just turning and hitting it, physically reacting, versus naturally coming and his reaction instinct comes in to grab something wounded. I am giving that fish two entirely different looks. And in the summertime, if that fish is already eaten, that person throwing it past and bringing it to the target versus that person pitching it to the target, they're going to have some sort of different reaction. I guarantee you that person flipping something like this versus the person reeling something like this by is getting an entirely different bite. So when you're going down the bank this summer and you're seeing targets, try to keep it in mind to whatever you have on, whether it's a chatterbait, a crankbait, or a frog, try to pitch directly to that target, and then every other one throw it past it and bring it to it. Sometimes you'll get that instinctual reaction of them thinking they're getting something wounded, and sometimes you'll get them to physically just react because it's invading their space. It's the same principle as dead sticking a worm, and I know you've all been through this. You cast out a Senko or something, you're letting it sink, you get a phone call, you check your text, you're tying your shoe, next thing you know your line takes off and there's a big one on it. It's sat in their space too long and they physically picked it up. They no longer liked it in their space. Whether they were going to move it and whether they were going to eat it, it sat there for such a long time, you force that fish to react of something in its space. That is deadly boring. I hate doing that in the summertime. It sucks. I'm not telling you to go out and dead stick all day long. It's very boring. You cover very little water. Now I'm going to talk about this principle with a frog, okay? When I'm frogging, I'm generally looking for dirtier water. And the reason why, in dirtier water, fish are shallower. They don't like to be down near the bottom in dirtier water because dirty water settles. It's more difficult for them to breathe. That cleaner water is up near the surface, usually around matted vegetation, which filters that water, okay? So if I can see beyond 3 foot deep, I'm gonna look for water with a little bit more stain to it. Otherwise, I'm probably not going to be throwing a frog. Now, I want you to keep this same thing in mind. When you've pitched a frog or you noticed your frog skipped, or right as your frog is going to land is when they hit it more often than not. It's not always between you retrieve, it's when you throw it up into the guts, right as it lands, boom, they're on it. They've seen it coming. And like a bird or anything coming across the surface, they have a split second to react to that. So whether it lands right by them, they could run, you could spook them, or they can instinctually turn and eat it, or as it's flying in, you can get that instinctive reaction strike of them knowing something's moving in that they do react to eat, whether they're hungry or not. But we're talking about an instinctual strike for it, just invading their space, instantaneous. You're forcing them to react to it. No matter what it is, they're gonna turn and bite it. And generally, the second the frog hits the surface, that is the strike you're getting. If you're getting bit in between, that's that instinctual reaction. You know, during low light hours, generally the bass have a higher odd of them feeding, and sometimes you can get bit on just about anything. So switching to a bigger bait to get that bigger bass at that point is something you want to do. But we're talking about getting those fish to bite outside of the prime times of them feeding, getting them to react. And in my opinion, the faster something falls on them or sneaks up on them silently, instantaneous. Let's say you have a deep diving crankbait, you're out on one of these lakes and there's deep boulders out there. If you have a audible version that has a single knocker in there, okay, and you're getting bit on that, maybe they're hungry or maybe you're getting them to instinctually react. If you stop getting bit by those fish, and you've seen KVD talk about this a ton of times, how he'll switch to a silent one, and my honest thought on that is you're strictly getting them to react. They hear stuff moving around them constantly, but then it's instantly in their face and they hit it because it's in their space. Boom! They just hit it because it's in their space. That's where those round bends stick them out here in the side of the face a lot. Bass are insanely fast. Unless that bait is deep in their mouth, you force that fish to react somehow. That fish reacted, so you did something right. When you have a fish hooked on the outside of the face, yeah, you might want to change your color up or your presentation to get them to hone in on it a little bit better. Or there's something you did with your retrieve, so give yourself a pat on the back to get that fish to react, because that's harder than when the fish is just instinctually eating. So that's a few tips I want you to really saturate your mind around.
Bigger, better, badder. The evolution of the buzzbait is upon us. The Evolution Baits Grass Burner is a high-performance bass snatcher machine. High-end components, inline displacement, larger profile, balanced body for fast or slower retrieves, better deflection, and oversized treble hooks. You wouldn't bring a slingshot to a gunfight, would you? Find out more at evolutionbaits.com. Did you know that P-Line makes specialized lines for all your fishing needs, from the super strong abrasive resistant CXX or the low stretch super stealthy CX Premium? Or maybe you're looking for invisibility or super bite detection with P-Line's 100% fluorocarbon. No matter what your needs, P-Line's got it covered. To find out more, visit P-Line.com.
P-Line, baby.
Ever tried pulling a planer board next to your boat when trolling or fishing from a swift current bank? If not, you're missing out on one of the most phenomenal fish catching machines on the market today. With Yellowbird planer boards pulling your lines perpendicular to your boat, you can't help but catch more fish. Find out more by visiting www.yellowbirdproducts.com.
So let's do this. Focus on speed. If you are near where they are, okay, it's 3 foot deep of grass and you're down in that grass and you're going slowly and you're not getting bit, you try faster. Try to force them to straight up react to it, getting in their space. And that oftentimes means going heavier. And I'll put a link in the description for you. And I can prove this to you. This is more than a theory, okay? This is proof. I've seen it happen to me. I've been on the receiving end. I've been on the end where I've been smacking them and my buddies had to switch over. But more often than not, I've been on the receiving end, which is kind of funny, but I've learned my lesson. For example, I was out doing a video on the Delta with Ken Ma. Ken was punching 1.5 ounces, all right? And I was punching a 1 ounce. We were both going through. It wasn't a matter of me not going through the mat. Ken was smacking them because of how fast it was dropping down there. These fish weren't hungry. They were strictly reacting to it instantaneously falling by them. And you can say that's an instinctual reaction for them to grab something because it looks wounded, but this is probably half a second from when it penetrates the mat. It was a reaction for it closing on their space and them grabbing it before something else had the opportunity to do that. So in that same fraction, you could say, does it matter then what bait you're using? And it does. I don't know why this is. I think it's something with the vortex of the water or the displacement of the bait or the instantaneous profile that they see. I've seen color play a small fraction, but usually the size of the bait and the shape of the bait plays a big part. For example, like my punch worm here, my worm threading rig, on a 1/2 ounce in that skinny worm versus this creature bait. I get entirely different bites with this than I do with this. And that has to be a profile deal. Subtle profile deal, bigger craw deal, but I guarantee you it is 100% reaction. If I was hopping it up to it and they heard it coming and got a good look at it, they may have been hungry when they ate it. If I was going fast, they probably instinctually reacted to it thinking it was something wounded. So don't be stuck on the mindset of thinking the bass aren't hungry, because 9 times out of 10 you're fishing for them when they are not hungry. You are getting them to instinctually react. But I want you to keep in mind all the stuff that I just said here and try to force them to react. Much more than instinctually react, try to keep that mindset when you're throwing reaction baits and they're not eating it. Try to force them to react by invading their space faster, flipping to those targets with heavier weights, or getting shallower next to their head with a frog or a lipless crankbait, going silent and then popping it right into their zone. If you know you're coming up to the post, settle just before the post and then snap it into the spot where you think they are, or deflect it into the spot where they are. Get instantaneously in their face and see how many more big bites you can get out of those fish that didn't want to eat your lure. I'm Nick the Informative Fisherman. Remember guys, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Best fishing.